First things first, you need a plan. Bailey and I were talking a few months ago about the importance around what we're doing in the world and how we want to show up in the world. And the reality is that so many times we create these ideas that we think are plans, but only come to find out that sometimes they don't actually work out the way that we want them to. And so what we're really doing today and what we're doing through this whole masterclass experience of Showcase Your Shine is helping you ultimately build a plan. Why?
Because if you don't have a plan for how you talk to yourself about yourself or how you talk about yourself to others, then you can't help you and other people can't help you. So, to address that first one, how you talk about yourself to yourself. So often we just start walking forward in our career. We graduate college. If we go to college, we get our first job. Maybe we get our second job. We get our third job, so on and so forth. We start a business. Whatever it is that we pursue in our career, so often we just start moving. And we can do so a lot of the times without a lot of intentionality. So, what may have been true for you in the first decade of your career is likely not true for you in the second, third, and beyond. So, it's super important to pause along the way and do some inner work and reflection to figure out, who am I? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What are my big picture goals for my career and my life? So in Showcase Your Shine, AJ is going to really go deep with you on that inner work of, who am I really at the core? And then I will go deep with you on how you're going to talk about yourself to others, because you can have all the goals in the world. You can have the biggest, most beautiful dreams. But if other people don't know about those dreams, you're leaving it all to yourself to have to do it all by yourself. And nobody should have to go through their life and their career without the support of others. So in the second half of the Showcase Your Shine Masterclass, I'm going to teach you how to talk about yourself to others so that they can talk about you when you're not in the rooms that they're in. So it's going to be very exciting.
So why don't we talk about ourselves real quickly? So I'm AJ Sarcione, if you don't know that. I've had the privilege of working with some amazing clients, helping them build their brands from the inside out. From my time at Yahoo as the head of internal marketing and internal branding, and at Verizon as the head of Mojo. And then with all these other brands on activating their leaders and their teams to help them to ultimately shine from within. And one of the ways that I feel like I shine most from within is when I'm singing, because it's one of my biggest passions. And if my legacy can ultimately be this one thing that happened to me when I was younger, then I am happy and I'm just sailing from here on out. I had a dream to sing with Whitney Houston. And in 1999, when she was on her world tour, she stopped her concert and asked me to sing with her. And my dream came true. And for the rest of my life, I will always have that, to know that even when I face the most hardest challenges, that something that I believed in so strongly was able to come true. And that if you really put in the work and build a great plan around it, there was a plan for me on how I would sing with Whitney Houston and capture her attention. You can deliver that plan. And so I really believe deeply that when we build ourselves from the inside out, we create a reputation that's ignited from within, that gets people to see us shine, from us just sparking all the things that make us unique and wonderful.
And that's me. So my plan has always been, hold a microphone as often as possible. So AJ and I are very similar in that respect. He loves to sing. I just love to talk. So from the time I was very small, I thought I wanted to be a TV show host. I actually moved to California from Florida to pursue a career in TV show hosting. I got here and very quickly was like, actually, just kidding. That is not at all aligned with what I want to be doing in this world and who I actually am on the inside. Cue major quarter life crisis and upending everything and thinking, why did I move 2,600 miles away for a dream that actually isn't quite right? But once I got very clear on what it actually was that I was after, what I actually wanted to do with my life and my career, which is inspire people and teach people how to connect, how to work with others, and how to share their story really authentically in a way that moves people, everything started clicking for me. So the reason why I focus on the amplifier influence part of the Showcase Your Shine Masterclass and really talking about how you want to talk about yourself in front of others is because this is the number one way that not only have I grown my business and increased my influence in the world, but how I have taught hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs, executives, and day jobbers how to do the same. So over here, you can see some of my stats. I have done a lot of these amplifier influence kind of activities throughout the last decade. I just scheduled my 51st podcast appearance, which is so exciting. I was aiming for 50, and in the same week I got 2. So zoomed right past that. But what's to blame, or I guess to credit for these stats right here, is my community. So what I'm going to help teach you in this masterclass is how to talk about yourself to others so other people can get you opportunities, because every single one of these opportunities came through somebody in my network. Somebody in my community said, hey, you know who you should invite to speak? Or, hey, you know who you should have on your podcast? My friend Bailey, because they knew exactly how to tee me up so that that person was like, oh my gosh, say less, get me in front of her. So I'm going to teach you how to do the same.
So what we're really saying is you need a plan for building your legacy brand. Now, we're going to talk in a second about what does legacy brand mean, but the reality is everything that we're trying to help you build is for today and for your future. So Bailey's going to tell you a little bit more about what we mean by legacy brand.
Legacy feels like one of those things that's so big and so massive and so intangible that it can be really hard to wrap your mind around. It definitely has been for me. I used to think of legacy as like, oh, well, that's paying for a building to be named after you on a college campus, or it's starting a scholarship, or it's something very somewhat ego driven where it's like, I want to put my name on something and I've got the money to pay for it. In reality, legacy is not quite that at all. That's like an outcome or a tangible thing that you can have from your legacy. But really, your legacy is what happens every single day of your career. It is built day in and day out. It's about how other people think of you, it's about the impact you leave behind. And so, while your legacy is going to happen with or without you doing anything about it, it's so much better to be intentional and strategic about how you craft your legacy throughout your entire career and your life. And that's the whole point of this masterclass, is to help you figure out how to do that. It is about figuring out how to have such a core belief and core understanding of who you are and what you want to achieve that making decisions is easy, because you don't have to think, is this a good idea for me? Is this a bad idea for me? You'll have such clarity that you're like, this is aligned with what kind of legacy I want to leave behind. So you can think of your legacy brand as your personal brand, your career brand. We call it legacy brand because it is something you actively create day in and day out that ultimately adds up to the story of you and your career at the end of things.
And so when we think about that, what's awesome about the thing that Bailey and I have discovered is that my passion around helping people build from within and her passion about helping people activate externally combined is what actually creates an amazing legacy brand. When you're able to discover what's your authenticity and your authority from truly inside of who you are, and then combine that with the way that you tell the stories and you engage with people through the ways that Bailey was explaining across stages and podcasts and interviews, and even in your interviews for new jobs, it's where you really ultimately build the legacy brand in the moment today. So let's talk about how we do that. My part of this program is focused around something that I offer called authentic authority. Really, it's about how we're building our reputation from within. It's built around our core values, the expertise that we have, and those actions that we continue to take through our intentions that influence people to ultimately understand and feel an experience from us that gives us more and more opportunity. There's a quote here by an amazing motivational speaker called Les Brown, and it talks a lot about the importance around imagination and courage and resilience. And the reason why I found this to be so significant once I discovered it is because it was so aligned with the way that I build out the strategy for how I'm going to share with you today on how you craft your plan, and ultimately how we'll use this plan, this strategy in our masterclass to help you activate everything that you want. This is my imagination board. So inside the imagination board, there's really these 4 areas, but it all begins with what if? What if I could become blank? And this is where the dream really exists and the magic that you hope to create in the world. When you figure out some of that and then you start to unpack it, we start at vision. We figure out how to build vision off of our values. So looking deeply at the values that are meaningful to us. One of the things that I love most in my work is when people bring values to a meeting with me, it's wonderful to watch in real time how those values actually blossom to become more of a true representation of who they deeply are and not just a surface thing that we're just trying to get something on a paper to feel like we did it. But ultimately, it starts with that. It starts with just looking inside yourself and saying, what is it that I value and why is that significant for me? And then we build a vision off of that, a vision that's built in feeling and the way that we want to create a feeling in the world. From that, we move into influence, and influence happens through intentions. So it's the intentional things that we're doing in life and the actions that we're taking against those intentions that actually start to influence other people to feel that brand that we are ultimately trying to create inside of the world. There's more to this that would come out in the masterclass, but I want to start here in these 2 parts to help you craft your plan today. If there's nothing more than you do, then you look at your values and you look at your intentions, you're already on your way to building a legacy brand for yourself. So that's a great place to start. However, you're like, what happens in the other 2 sections? Well, I want to give you a little taste of that because that's some of the work that we would get into in the masterclass. One of those things is building out a brand pyramid. Ultimately, you're building your brand, your, as Bailey said, personal brand, career brand, we're calling it your legacy brand, in something that looks like this, that brings across these 4 areas that you see on the right side: clarity, influence, experience, and practice, aligned with on the left side, what is your brand? What's the benefit from it? How do you deliver it? And then ultimately, what is the plan that you're going to create around it? Which is really where some of Bailey's stuff totally comes in and helps you activate this and activate the way that you bring your influence into the world. One of the greatest things that you'll get out of doing this kind of work, though, is a manifesto. The manifesto is so powerful. If you've ever done a vision board, we always know how inspiring those can be for us to look at these pictures. But inside of it is a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion, and reasons why we put those pictures on the board that ultimately get to the true essence of who you are. And so going through this work, you find this beautiful prose that becomes the essence of who you are, that sometimes people put up on the wall or they keep it on the inside of a notebook, that reminds them day in and day out when they're faced with a challenge to seek the opportunity that's aligned with their manifesto. When they're faced with the solution or when they're faced with a problem, to find solutions that's aligned with their manifesto. That even goes back to what Bailey was saying around when you're faced with tough decisions, this kind of work can help you quickly move past the decision fatigue and knowing what's exactly aligned for you based upon the work that we do together in this manifesto. Once you have all of this, though, you got to bring it into the world. And that's where Bailey comes into play.
There is very little point in doing so much internal excavation only to not share it with anybody else. It's not to say it's completely pointless, because I do think that is a worthwhile pursuit in your life, to look inward. But for the purposes of what AJ and I are really teaching you about building your legacy brand, the intention here is to take it out into the world and create an ongoing and lasting impact. So the second part of building your legacy brand during the masterclass is my program called Amplify Your Influence. This is really about taking those values, that manifesto, all of the amazing artifacts that AJ will give you, and helping other people help you. So it's taking your reputation and sharing it with the world through community, connection, and collaboration. So this is the structure of the Amplify Your Influence program. So connection-centered thought leadership is a framework that I've created that's effectively, how do you share your knowledge and your expertise in a human-centric way, where you're going to be able to connect with people on a human level so that they're more inspired to act, whatever it is that you're asking them to do, whether that's identify amazing opportunities for you in your career, identify new leadership opportunities, or identify potential clients to send your way for your business. This is going to help you with that piece. The second element of amplifier influence is creating your 3C strategy. So this is where you're really going to identify who are the people in my life that I can tell about what my goals are and what I'm trying to achieve. How can I get them to attract those aligned opportunities for me? And where can I really amplify my expertise and establish my credibility as a human-centered, connection-centered thought leader? So we're going to build out your 3C strategy, and you'll see what that looks like in just a little bit. And then this will lead to the impact and influence that you can have in the world. So through the connection-centered thought leadership, that's the what. That's the message you're sharing. That's the way you're going to connect with people. The how is going to be your 3C strategy. That's how you're getting the message out into the world. And those two things combined lead to your why, which is your bigger purpose, the impact and influence you want to have in the world, and ultimately your legacy. So this is a little preview of the connection-centered thought leadership framework. Like I just mentioned, education. What are you going to teach people? What are you leaving them with? What is the information and insights and your expertise and your knowledge that you want to share with the world? How are you going to connect with them? What are the stories you're going to tell, the case studies you're going to share, those connection points that will help people feel like they understand you and they like you, which leads to inspired action. What do you want people to do by the time they're finished hearing you speak, whether that's in an interview, on a podcast, or on a stage at a conference, or even in the parking lot at school drop-off in the morning? No stage is too big or too small for you. It's really dependent upon your goals. Either way, ultimately, you want people to take some kind of inspired action, and the connection-centered thought leadership framework will help you do so. And the 3C strategy. What we're trying to do with the 3C strategy, like I said, is make sure that the people in your world know how to talk about you and get you opportunities when you're not around. If you're trying to do this all by yourself, which trust me, I did before I stumbled upon this strategy, I was doing everything alone because I thought it wouldn't count if I asked for help and accepted help. I thought, I don't want an intro to somebody at that company. I don't want to get a job because I know somebody who knows somebody. Spoiler alert, that is literally how this world works. And if you're not doing that, you're screwing yourself out of amazing opportunities because people are here to help you. So the 3C strategy is broken down into gaining visibility through your community. So we're going to talk about how do you know what kind of communities to join? What does joining a community even entail? Is it in person? Is it virtual? We're going to cover all of that. And we're going to help you figure out the right communities for you to join so that you get in front of the right people. You're going to learn how to get opportunities through your connections. So how do you help people help you? How do you help them know exactly what to say about you when you're not around and identify a job opportunity that they see where they go, oh my God, that is AJ. I need to send him this job opportunity. And even bonus points if they know somebody on the company, which is usually how it works. And then the final C is gaining credibility through collaboration. This is where other people vouching for you and offering you their stage, whether it's their podcast or an actual physical stage, that's going to help other people start to identify you as an expert or a thought leader in your space, which will then lead to growing your community, getting more opportunities, and so on and so forth. The cycle continues forever. So we're going to build your 3C strategy so that you know exactly how to make this work for you. Here's a little preview of what the Amplifier Influence Playbook will look like. You're actually going to get this particular worksheet today after the webinar so that you can start to build this out so that by the time you come to the masterclass next Saturday, you've got the basis ready to go. You have crafted the beginnings of your plan, and then we're going to teach you how to activate it once we're there. So you can see here, this is what we're really going to dig into. What do you want? What is your why? What are you going to say? What is your what? And how are you going to say it? The how? How are you going to get those opportunities?
And ultimately, now that we've given you a few little things to start to craft that plan, the reality is you have to activate it. And Bailey and I are the first prime examples of that. When we met, years ago, we had this beautiful meeting and we felt really connected around each other. And then the pandemic happened and we went on our ways. When we reconnected at the beginning of this year, we were both like, what are we doing? How are we bringing it into the world? I struggle with not telling enough people what I do. And Bailey was like, I really want to align on exactly what I want. And so we combined our efforts to bring you what we're bringing today. She's helping me get myself out into the world more and share what it is I want so people can take access of it And then I was helping her build what it is from the inside out that she wants to create that reputation in the world around what it is. And ultimately, I genuinely believe that if you go out in the world and just start talking about whatever it is that you want, and you don't do the deep alignment work on the inside, and then don't get really clear on what Bailey's saying around the 3 C's, you're missing the opportunities. You'll just be putting a lot out into the world without having people take a lot of action around it. But you have to activate it first.